morning, everyone. Good morning. Yes, beautiful. So I want to thank everyone for coming here today. We are here today to have an honest, open conversation about war. We have read in our classes, we've read Slaughterhouse-Five by Kurt Vonnegut. In that book, Kurt Vonnegut touches on his experiences in World War II and specifically with the Dresden bombings. We're in the middle of reading A Long Way Gone by Ishmael Bea, a memoir from a child soldier who discusses his experiences not just as a soldier but also rehabilitating after that fact. And we are eternally grateful to have the opportunity today to talk to two people about their personal experiences with this topic. And I want everybody to thank Mr. Daryl Crawford and Mr. Abu Shah for being willing to talk to you and us about their experiences today. So let's hear it for Mr. Crawford and Mr. Shaw. Without further ado, I want to turn it over to you, the students. We can begin the questions. All right, so let's have our first question.
So this is to both of you. Did you always want to be a teacher?
After you, please.
Well, I would say initially no. I wanted to be a doctor somehow. As a young child, my mom used to take me to a hospital, the only hospital in my town. I like to stand up, guys, all right? My mom used to take me to this hospital. You know, we have missionaries in my hometown. The town is Kamakwie, K-A-M-A-K-W-I-E in Sierra Leone. Now, when my mom used to take me, I used to see these doctors. They're taking blood pressures. They're checking people out. As a young kid, I thought that was fascinating. So that's what I wanted to be. But things change as I get older. I went to high school. I had an Indian teacher. He has a very long name. I still remember him. He's always well-dressed. And he's really on top of his content. When he comes to class, he used to teach me biology. No surprise, I became a bio teacher. And he is really on top of things. He's always well-dressed. His name is Karotumadatil Kutapang. I still remember that long name. Boys, he likes things. He's always on time compared to the other teachers, always on time, on top of his work. And he makes us memorize stuff and learn stuff. So I became fascinated. That's the first time I said, you know what? This is a thing I want to be. So that's how I started thinking about becoming a teacher. But initially, I wanted to be a medical doctor because that's the first thing I saw in my environment. Is that good?
Better than my answer.
No, that's good.
No, I don't even know how I got where I am. It just sort of happened. I don't really remember when I was young wanting to be any one thing. I just wanted to do everything. I think if I was a kid today, they'd have me so medicated for my ADD, they wouldn't know what to do with me. One of the jobs I finally kind of settled on was the idea of being a journalist. Like, I thought that would be pretty sweet. I did like to write. I didn't want to do anything with science. I mean, I liked science, but I was really not good at it. So I was thinking about going. In fact, even when I went to go into the Army, initially I was thinking, maybe I'll go and be a journalist, because how cool would that be? Like, so you get to do this thing that you think is pretty outstanding and simultaneously, you know, do it perhaps. I had this weird, twisted sense of being like a war correspondent. Like, I didn't even know what the heck that meant. And when I got to the recruiting station, they were like, sorry, it's full. There's no more room. So I obviously did the next most likely job. Well, then let me go recon, because that's just like being a journalist with guns. So that's the way I went. And the actual decision to study history was in my mind, but to study history secondary ed was almost an accident. Like, I was thinking it, but when I finally was going to college, I didn't actually fill that out. And somehow I ended up being a double major. Like, no joke, it's just like one of those finger of God kind of moments. So I looked, I'm like, yeah, screw it. Let's do that. And my intention was not never to teach, but not to teach right away. My intention was to go back on active duty and then perhaps teach after I retired. My wife helped to rephrase that decision point, and I'm here. So I don't know, it was like a series of life events that just kind of got me here. Wasn't something that I aimed for. See, your answer's better.
Yours is much better.
This question is for Mr. Crawford. What is your ranking in the military, and what duties does it entail?
Are you looking at like for the highest rank I held, or do you want to know like, so back in 91 when I was a 19-year-old schmuck going to war the first time, or 04, 05 when I went to Baghdad, or do you want it all? Okay. He likes to stand, I like to have coffee. All right, so in 1991, I was a private first class, which means I pretty much knew nothing. Duties, do what you're told, really. You don't know enough to know what to do on your own. I mean, yeah, that's a bit facetious, I suppose. You have basics, you got your soldiering basics down, but as a scout, as a PFC, you really rely on your leadership to do stuff. Sure, I knew how to get through a minefield or find mines or things like that, or I knew how to do an area or a zone recon, but I'd never tell you where should I go do that job. I would need someone to let me know where to do what I knew how to do. You don't really have any authority as a PFC unless the situation dictates it. In 2004, I was a sergeant first class, but I happened to be fortunate to be in a non-standard unit at that point in time. You guys ever heard of the DIA before? No? Man, I guess it is a secret organization. Just kidding. Defense Intelligence Agency was, they formulated a group called the ISG, Iraq Survey Group. And the Iraq Survey Group broke itself down into a couple things they called sector control points. The largest was Sector Control Point Baghdad. So I worked for Sector Control Point Baghdad. I had about 40 guys as a sergeant first class. I had about 40 soldiers. I had a shocking amount of combat power. I was 33. I guess I thought I was pretty smart. No one should give a single dude like that much combat power, because especially a kid like me who had, I'm like watching two squirrels play ping pong sometimes. I bounce around a lot. So, what were my duties? Tactical planning. We'd receive missions, I would organize them. I'd assign soldiers to missions. Some missions I ran myself, some were smaller, so I didn't run them as a platoon, you just run them as a section, or like maybe you send out 9 guys to handle a task, to handle a mission. Sometimes it was much larger. Sometimes our missions coincided with other larger units. One of the largest ones I would have been on involved the 7th Regimental Combat Team, Marine Corps team out in Fallujah, directly with a Marine recon company. I was my small section, because we had a very specific target in that operation. I only had maybe 11 guys, and the total operation was probably some 300 or 400 engaged. So you're responsible for everything for the guys. I mean, literally, they joke around, they call a guy like me like a platoon daddy, because you do everything. You counsel them when they do good, you counsel them when they do bad. You're making sure they're getting fed, you're making sure they're getting their beans, blankets, and bullets. They're getting all the stuff they need to do the job you're asking them. You do your risk assessments, and you hope they don't die. Spend a lot of time doing that. The highest rank I attained was as a command sergeant major at a battalion. So what that means is you're responsible for all enlisted personnel policies, enlisted operations. You manage the, it's called an NCOER system, non-commissioned officer evaluation and reporting system. You advise the battalion commander on all affairs that deal with soldiers. You help in decision making as far as planning for training and planning for operations. I guess the most guys I ever had there was about 672 in that position. So, is that sufficient? All right.
So this is for Mr. Shaw. How did you know that war was happening in Sierra Leone? And did you hear about it immediately, or was it something that happened over time?
Oh, I heard of it immediately. It happened over time. The way the war started, there was this Liberian leader. He said, let me give you a little background information. West Africa was fairly stable in Africa. When is it relatively stable compared to East Africa and the South Africa, that area, because South Africa was plagued with apartheid, you know, the wars that went on there. Mozambique was in war. Angola, there was a war going there. There was a war in Sudan. So all these places were on fire, all right? But what happened in West Africa, there was this guy called Charles Taylor. He in fact studied in the United States. I think he was arrested here for something, but he escaped from prison and went to Liberia. He started this guerrilla war but before he got to Liberia, he went to Gaddafi in Libya. That's where he got his training, and he got all his men, and they started this rebellion in Liberia. So the rebellion was there. Now, Liberia and Sierra Leone, if you look at the map, we share common boundaries, all right? Sierra Leone too was, what he did was he came to Sierra Leone, according to some intelligence people, you know, services, they said he came to Sierra Leone, he wanted to establish a base in Sierra Leone so he can invade Liberia. But our leaders in those days, the president was Joseph Saidu Momo. He refused it. He said, no, you're not going to do that. So he was mad, so he went to the Côte d'Ivoire, that is Ivory Coast. He talked to the president there, President Houphouët Boigny. He kind of talked to him. He allowed him to establish a base there and enter Liberia. Now, so the war started in Liberia, and they were trained in Libya and financed by Gaddafi as well, all right? So the fighting was going on in Liberia, but part of that group that went to Liberia was some Sierra Leoneans also. We had some Sierra Leoneans. Fode Sanko was the head of them, the head of the RUF. If you read Ishmael's book, the book you're going to read about soon, Long Way Gone, you're going to hear about the RUF, all right? So they were all there fighting in Liberia. But what happened was they decided that this war in Liberia has gone too long, all right? So the West Africa has an economic union called ECOWAS, the Economic Union of West African States. So they decided they have to help, all right? So they formed a group called ECOMOG. All the West African countries kind of contributed troops to that particular group. So they went in and intervened. So they used Sierra Leone as a base to go in and just to settle the fighting in Liberia. So when they went in there, Charles Taylor was mad because we never allowed him to use our country as a base to invade the country. Now he has invaded, he started the fighting there. We are allowing the West African countries to send a fighting force into Liberia. So he wasn't happy about that. So he promised Sierra Leone that we're going to pay the price for that. But that is just an excuse because he's already working in tandem with Fode Sanko. Fode Sanko was the guy who is the head of the RUF who started the rebellion in Sierra Leone. So the fighting went there. When Charles Taylor succeeded in Liberia, there's a lot of fighting, a lot of people died. They started in Sierra Leone in 1991, they invaded Sierra Leone, the eastern part of the country, the eastern southern part of the country. So the fighting continued. So actually I knew because I was teaching then in Sierra Leone and I listened to news all the time. If you see me, I still subscribe to Time magazine. I get them all the time. That's what I used to read. And you listen to the BBC and the VOA. So that's how I knew the fighting is in Sierra Leone. And it's very easy to tell. The country is not that big. It's the size of South Carolina. So you see displaced people coming. So say if there's a fighting like in Reading, you see people coming over here walking on foot. Remember, this is not a developed country like here. So you see people, their luggage, they're walking on foot. You see refugees. Well, you don't call them refugees if they're within the country and they're citizens. They're displaced people. They're internally displaced. So that's how we knew that a lot of people were coming into our area. I was teaching in the eastern part of the country, a place called Conon. So we used to see these refugees, and you hear all kind of horror stories about what was going on. That they're killing indiscriminate, they're hacking people's hands, they're doing all kind of atrocities. raping people, raping girls, and all that kind of stuff. A lot of stuff. So I knew the fighting was on.
A lot of stories, but did you ever have any direct interactions with the rebel forces?
I did not have any, thank God I did not have direct interaction with the rebel forces. I'll probably not be here. But I did see a rebel that was captured by the military, the Sierra Leone military. I did see him, and I did see a rebel captured by the Sierra Leone military, and it's not really pretty with some of the stuff, how they treat the rebels as well. That is considered a professional army, but they're doing something like, just like the rebels. They really treat them, really badly. So what happened was, where I was teaching in Kono, they invaded that place. But before they got there, we all left. Most of us that were there, we already left. Because the way the RUF operates, when they invade a particular town, they look for guys like you, your age groups and stuff. All the young guys, you have to join their ranks. If you don't join them, they exterminate you, they'll kill you. And they'll drug all the young kids, the boy, Ishmael, the book you're gonna read about is one of those, but he was not part of the rebel group, he was part of the government. What they do is they drug these young boys and girls, they recruit them into their ranks, and you have to fight with them, otherwise they get rid of you. So if they surround a place like this, they'll catch all the young people, they will ask you all to assemble on one spot, and that's where they do their screening. They pick those that they want. If they don't like you, they get rid of you. All right, you have to join them, it's a must. You either join them or you're dead. You have no choice. But I did not interact with them directly. All right?
This question is for Mr. Crawford. What did you expect war to be like, and were you right?
What's the last part? Was I ready?
Were you right?
Was I right?
Yes.
In 91, I'd already been in the Army for 2 years. I was fortunate to get stationed in Germany with a NATO post, so we trained a lot with like the Scots and the Dutch and the Germans and the French, and you do a lot of war games. It's like laser tag with really big guns. They put lasers on the planes and the helicopters and tanks and Bradleys and all sorts of vehicles on every handheld weapon you have, every shoulder-fired missile, all that stuff. So we used to go out and do a lot of training, but the training that we were getting ready for, the war we were getting ready to fight, was against the Soviet Union. It was the wrapping up time period of the Cold War. So it was this idea of a large force on force. So as a scout, you did a lot of counter armor stuff, meaning 2 dudes dismounted and how do you not die when there's a whole bunch of tanks around, that kind of stuff. I'm not sure if I thought that's what war was going to be like or not. I don't even know if I have a framework for it. I knew what training was, and I knew what we were getting ready for. I'm not exactly sure if I thought that's what war was going to be like. It's like a trip through the wires. I can answer the second part better. No, I wasn't right. I don't think any war is the same as the last one. Obviously, I went into 2004 with a lot of memories from 1991. Even telling guys, all right, we can expect, and toss those out the window. The minute you hit the ground, everything's different. Even if you prepare for an enemy, it doesn't mean the enemy stays the way they were. So they change, they adapt. That's how you don't, die. It's how you win. So I don't know that I knew exactly what war was going to be like. I remember in 91, I do distinctly recall being fairly certain that most of us weren't going to live. A friend of mine from high school actually joined the Army after I did. And she was all excited because she was going to be stationed in Germany, well, not the same place I was, but there were hardly any Americans in northern Germany. I was one of a small group. And she ended up being assigned to another very small group that was just farther north than I. We had been good friends in school. So when I found out I was leaving, I wanted to go see her. She's like one friendly face, right, from like back home. I'm not seeing anybody else before I go off and do this. And she absolutely didn't want to see me. She was like totally she was pissed off with me. She'd yell at me on the phone. It was weird. It was very bizarre. And finally she yelled, "You're not going to make it past the first 30 seconds," which was the life expectancy of a scout when you dismount to clear an obstacle. It's 30 seconds. I knew that. Like, I knew that in my head, which is why you train. You train like an animal. That's why you go without sleep, you go without food, you work so that you don't die. And there she was like pissed off at me because she's like mad that I'm gonna die. I thought I was supposed to be the one pissed off about it. So I didn't expect necessarily for us in '91 to do as well as we did. I was surprised. Not that we didn't have people die, we did. I mean, you guys talk about a 100-hour war. It wasn't a 100-hour war. It was longer than that. But you guys just don't know the stuff that went into it. So we lost people right away. One guy who I knew, one guy who I really liked. And then we went through the breach. We made the breach in advance, and I thought, well, here we go, It's confusion. It's chaos. I mean, if you ask two guys who were in the same fight what happened and what it's like, you're going to get two different stories. Because like your world is this small little piece that you're fighting in. Like, anyone know anything about the war in '91 at all? Anyone ever seen any of the documentaries? Holy crap. You guys weren't even born yet. You guys weren't even born. I am old, man. I'm getting old. If you do a little research, you'll come across a battle that they call the Battle of Norfolk. It also goes by the Battle of 76 Easting. It also goes by the name, the Battle of 73 Easting. The very beginning of that lengthy battle was called the Battle of Medina Ridge. You can Google any of those things, you'll find out crap. So, like my vision was literally like 3 little periscopes. It was nighttime, things were blowing up. We're shooting, they're shooting. It's just like, how do you have that in like a timeline memory? How do you have that as an experience that you can say, this is what I thought it would be? I don't know. I know it's chaotic. I know it's, even when it's done, you can't necessarily put it all in a sequence. I still talk to a buddy of mine, Johnny Fry. He was my wingman. And in the middle of that battle at night, they went into a tank ditch. Now, we didn't know that because we couldn't see them because I was looking this way and people were shooting at us from that way, so you're not spending time looking over at them. And when they crashed, he smashed his face into the periscopes that he was looking out of and knocked himself out for a time. So, bam, they're just, radio comms go down. So what's your natural inclination? If he's not talking on the radio, what is he? He's dead. What do you do? Just keep going that way, just keep shooting, right? What else are you going to do? And that's it. It's a game. That's when I guess after the fact, the only thing I came away with is it's a game. But there's bad guys, and yeah, I'll call them bad guys because it makes it a whole lot easier. And we're the good guys. And bad guys try to hurt you. And you should hurt them before they have a chance to hurt you. And that's simply what it is. Did I think it was that beforehand? Nah, I guess not. Did I really have a clue what it was? I don't think I did. If I go again, is it going to be the same as it was before? No, because it's always different. Did I answer your question? All right.
This question's for Mr. Shaw. Did you ever consider staying to fight in Sierra Leone?
Absolutely not. One thing I know, I'm not a military guy. I'm not a fighter, no, not physical fight. I would have loved to stay to help the country, as I was always doing. I was teaching already. And that is one of the problems with war. When war one of the effects of war on a nation. What happens is, if you know you're educated, that part of the world, not everybody is educated, because education, although they say it's a right, but it's actually a privilege, all right? Not everybody has the opportunity, as you guys have, to go to school. I remember in my previous presentations, I always try to emphasize this, that this kind of discussion has to be about you. Some of us who are coming into this country, we want you to be aware the kind of opportunities you have. And for me, because my specialty is education, I really want to ingrain that in you, that you really have the best of the best on planet Earth. Because I would have loved to stay in Sierra Leone and continue teaching and building, help build the nation, all right? That's what I wanted to do. But the environment does not allow that anymore. So the only thing left, either I stay and watch the country disintegrate, or I die in the process, or leave. I know some people who I went with to school, some of them joined the military and stuff. Some of them did not survive, all right? So I find my niche is really in teaching. That's what I like, all right? Building people. But countries, when war break out, small nations like Sierra Leone, one of the serious effects is brain drain. All the people who are educated will try to leave, because there is no point in staying, all right? You can't share your knowledge with anybody. You're just dysfunctional. So that is one of the effects of war. Now, what happened with Sierra Leone, as I was saying, education there is a kind of like a privilege. It means in my own time, if my dad never had money, some amount of money compared to Sierra Leone, I would not have been in school, because you have to pay tuition, even for high school. They've changed it for the elementary, I don't know for secondary now, but high school you have to pay tuition. You either have it or you're in school, even if you're the smartest kid, if your parents cannot pay, you're out of there. And I've observed that that is one of the brutal things that I watch as a teacher. I see some of my smartest kids kind of kicked out of class because of tuition, because their parents don't have money to pay. And that was really hard. So these are some of the things I always tell my students here. Work hard. You know, I see the opportunities you have. I know where I came from. I've seen kids in other parts of the world. You have the best of the best. It is some of these things you should really appreciate what you have and just use the opportunities, all right? Even this morning I was telling my kids, I said, whining will not help. I don't take whining. The best students in my class are those that work hard for me. I love them to death. The ones that frustrate me are the ones that don't want to do anything, all right? Because I know they have the opportunity to make a difference at some point. And as Americans, the way you're perceived, the way we are perceived in the rest of the world is really, really, you guys don't know how we're perceived. If you're an American, you land in any third world country or in any part, they expect you to make a difference. Absolutely. They expect you to solve their problems, because that's the perception. He's from America. They expect you to have a lot of money, they expect you to be knowledgeable, and they expect you to make a difference in their life, even if you don't have a penny. But that's the perception. Honestly, that is the perception. You know, these few weeks I'm talking to one of my family members. He was saying, one of our cousins there are jeans in Sierra Leone. You know the jeans that we put on, but he wants jeans from the United States. Even if you buy them from China, as long as they pass from the United States, then that is good. You know what I mean? Perception matters. So that's why when you don't know where life will take you. So wherever you are, especially education, is really good. That's the only thing you can do now. Make sure you work very hard. Make use of the opportunities you have. And be somebody, you know. So when you get somewhere, you see people, you can make a difference in their life. Even if you don't give them money, but you can see them, you know, you organize their environment for them a little bit. Believe me, there's still people on planet Earth who doesn't know bacteria exist, viruses exist. They're not educated. They've never been to school. They don't know anything about diseases, how to keep their environment clean, personal hygiene stuff. They don't have it. Up to now, you'll be shocked. You'll be really, really shocked. All right? So most of these presentations, although we're talking about one other stuff, I really want it to be for you guys to take advantage of what you have. That's why I like to do this. All right?
And this question's for both of you. How hard was it to come back from your experiences with war and teach?
Go ahead.
Well, in 91, I didn't. I mean, in 1991, when that was over, I went back to Germany, which was great. You're around your friends, you're around your colleagues, you have the soldiers, so that was good. Well, sort of good. People get like a sense of being bulletproof, do you know what I mean? So when we got back, a lot of people acted really stupid, myself included. You do dumb things because you can, but you do dumb things because you didn't die. And when you're young and you think you're bulletproof, by the way, you're wrong, you're not bulletproof. So I got involved in a number of things that I shouldn't have gotten involved in. I had to get my head straight again. Drinking way too much. It was Germany. I mean, I was a 19-year-old kid in Germany with a bunch of extra money. Dangerous place to be. In 2005, it was really surreal. It was weird. I ran my last mission and 30 days later, I walked into a classroom. 28 days later, I guess it was, maybe 27, something like that. That was so not good. That wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for the kids. I hated all of you. I didn't like any of you. You all sucked. You were privileged, undisciplined. You were all narcissistic. You were kids, except I didn't see you as kids anymore. It took me a while to stop hating you all. Obviously, your teacher should not hate you, so it wasn't good. Thank God for the students I had that year, that I only had them April, May, and June. Then they, went off to summer break and could recover from the lousy that was me. Sometimes I still get pissed off with you guys, though. You take everything for granted, everything. The level of narcissism grows to tick me off sometimes. I got to remind myself that you're kids, right? I mean, you're just like kids when I was a kid. I just forget that. You're like kids when my parents were kids. We just forget it. It doesn't mean you should wallow in your narcissism. Get better, please. I didn't transition well. I think war is shockingly easy. It's a game, right? I've already explained that. Bad guys, good guys, hurt bad guys, don't get hurt by bad guys. When you get here, there's like a multitude of things always around you. And whether you guys realize it or not, you are a shockingly needy bunch of human beings. You're at your desk trying to get ready, and there's 5 kids. But Mr. Crawford this, or Mr. Crawford, it's like, dude, just shut up, back up. I was not I'm used to, there it's simple. You have a mission, right? You got a task, you have a purpose. Provide your motivation, go do it. Here, it's like everyone's pulling you in multiple directions. I was so not ready for that constant being pulled in multiple directions. So, no, I didn't transition well. I don't think I transitioned well either time, now that I really think about it. I just had the benefit of still, of returning back to my post in Germany the first time so that I could get the dumb out of my system. Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't good.
Mm-hmm. Well, after I left Sierra Leone, I went to England, and I was there for 4 years. Now, I went there as a refugee and a Commonwealth citizen. Commonwealth citizen means all the countries, the British Commonwealth, all the countries that used to be colonized by the United Kingdom, all right, they have this organization called the Commonwealth. So that was the only country I can go to without a visa then. That's why I was able to leave Sierra Leone, and I was lucky to have money to pay, to buy my tickets and stuff. So I went there. To become a teacher was very hard because I wanted to go to school there, but I have no money to pay for tuition, all right? And I said I want to be a teacher. They said they would charge me as a foreign student, but that was very, very expensive, so I can't afford it. So what I did was to work and go to a community college and start learning about computers, things that I was not exposed to. That's why still my technology skills are way down, all right? I'm working hard to bring them up, but they're still way down, all right? So I started doing that stuff. But for 4 years, I never achieved much there. I was not able to go to school there, except a few community college classes and stuff, and that was not my dream. So here comes luck. Once in a while, they say in life, you have to count on your luck. So I was lucky. I had the opportunity to come to the United States, all right, by something called diversity visa, a kind of a lottery system that I won. So I get to the United States, different country. I came here a couple of weeks. I was living in West Coastville with my friend. One of my best friends, he's still at, he lives in Reading now. His name is Mohammed Sheriff. So I get to his house. I was looking at the morning call. I saw this commercial, Connect with Success, Cedar Crest College. Then I called them. They talked me to coming in. And I explained to them my situation and stuff in the country. They said, oh, no, you can take classes right away if you want. But if you want to become a teacher here, you have to study all over again. Because you are different from the kids in Sierra Leone. So if I want to teach you, I have to go to school here, know the system, know the education system, and all this stuff, all the requirements. So that means, although I have a degree in Sierra Leone, I have to do it over again. So that's why I said whining sometimes is not good. I have to do things twice. So I have to go back to Cedar Crest College and get a bachelor's degree in biology and education, double major. Took me 5 years. I was working, supporting my parents, home and stuff, helping my parents because the war was raging there. You know, they moved to a different country because they were displaced. You know, so I was supporting them there and working very hard. But my dream was there. I have to get that teaching degree. So that's the only thing I see. I don't see anything else. The suffering and the other things I don't really care about anymore. I have to get it. I was in 2 Street in Allentown. That's where I used to live for a start until I got the degree. And I was lucky. I got a job in Bethlehem. I went through the praxis stuff. Then I got a job in Bethlehem for 3 years. You know, I was applying here and there all over the place. Then I was lucky. I was hired here. Thank God. You know, I was hired here. My experience has been good. So that has been really better. So when I started teaching again, I started doing my master's at DeSales. Then I finished that up in 2009. So it was not a smooth pathway, but eventually I got to where I am. All right?
Mr. Shaw, this
Yep.
is for you again.
Okay.
The question says, how did you decide what to bring to America? But since you went to England first, can you tell me what you decided to bring with you?
I never thought of that. I don't need to bring anything to America. What do I need to bring? Everything is here. Never figured that out. What? No, I don't bring any. I live in England for 4 years. My plan was to come here. That's a very good question, though. Now you're making me think. What happened was when I won the lottery. In fact, how I won the lottery was very funny. I was working as a security guard, believe you me, in England. All right. So I was sitting at my desk. A lady comes in and said they do the cleaning and stuff. So she asked me, she want to make a photocopy of a paper. So I photocopied it for her. And she told me, say, oh, by the way, this is the United States. They have this diversity visa program. It's a lottery system that they play. Maybe you should take one and play it yourself. So I looked at it, I was reading about it. So they require you to have a degree or at least SATs if you're a very young kid, all right? And or you have a kind of like a technical training, something that requires like 2-year college training thing, like a community college thing. That is the one requirement. And the second requirement, you have to be perfectly healthy. All right? You have to have somebody in the United States who will sponsor you, or you have to have enough money to come and live here for 3 months without public charge. That is the third requirement. The fourth requirement, you should not have any criminal background, zero. Zero criminal background. That is the fourth requirement, I think. And they have all these specifications. So I went through the process. So I met the requirements. I had a degree. I have money to come over here. Then I have somebody here. So I met most of these requirements. But the problem is you have to win the lottery first. So I played the lottery, and luckily the big envelope came to me. I ignored it. I never knew what it was. I remember I went to work. I came back. I didn't look at it. Then on my day off, I looked at this envelope. I saw something, Rochester or something. Then I opened it up. They say, congratulations, you won this thing. Oh my God, I was so happy. I kind of, for the first time, in our cultures or some other places, you hardly show emotions, kind of. All right, America really changed me because now I'm very emotional, I show it. In Britain, it's the same thing. Sometimes you have to be, strong and stuff. But I really, really cried. I looked at this thing. Then I went through all the procedures, and that's how I came. I never thought of bringing something. My plan was to come here, get my green card, go back to England, get my clothes and whatever I need, and come back to the United States. Guess what? United States is different. I came over here a month. I just started school. I got a job. I was so surprised. Anywhere I applied, I'm hired. Like over 7, not big jobs, but that is different from England. England, I struggled a lot to get work is not easy. But the economy was booming here. It was Bill Clinton's time, 98. So the economy, there were a lot of jobs. So I was lucky in that sense. So I never went back. All of a sudden started going to school, got married, have kids. Here I am. Up till now, I've not been to England. I had stuff there, who knows. That's the way it is. I never thought of going back. Got money here, there are plenty of stuff. That's what happened. Thanks, sir. That was a good question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, this one's for Mr. Crawford. How did your family react when they found out you were going to be deployed?
In 91, we got notification kind of funny. The Secretary of Defense had a talk at night. Well, for where I was at, it was night. It was midday back in the U.S. So no one really saw it because it was noontime briefing kind of things. No one sees those, right? So we did because we were watching it. And he said, hey, that our element, 2nd Armored Division 4, was going to Iraq. It was like a party that night. Like everyone was like all fired up, which is strange. But think about it. It's like you train and train and train for this, and then you finally get to go do it. It sounds cool. It's not, but it sounds cool. So the next morning, everything was confirmed that, hey, we are. Because we thought we were going somewhere else. We were going to this place called Bosnia. There was a civil war going on there, ethnic cleansing going on there. We were going to go down and try to enforce a peace, which I was not very excited about because that's a very difficult mission to try to go in between two people who really, really want to hurt each other. Usually the third party gets hurt, and then they go back to killing each other. So I wasn't very excited about it. So in the morning it was clarified, and they said, all right, so we don't have a date. We don't know when we're leaving, but you have to start getting your personal affairs in order. And go ahead and notify your families that it's official that we are leaving, but no mission details. So it was a big long line at the phones. I got up and didn't even think about the time it was. By that point in time, it was like maybe 7:30 in the morning. Well, the East Coast is 6 hours behind us, so that's like 1:30 in the morning. So I dialed my folks, never even thinking about it. Like, I just was like, hey, we got to call them, let them know. And my mom answered. I remember it. Because the minute she picked up, I said, hey, Mom, she immediately started crying. Like, I guess if your kid calls in the middle of the night, it's not good news, right? So I was like, hand the phone to Dad. And she's just crying, like, hand the phone to Dad. So she did, and he just said, where are you going? So I told him. And I told him to take care of Mom, because I could hear her. She was a train wreck in the back. It didn't even occur to me that I was going to upset them. I mean, to me, it was just like, okay, it's what we're going to go do. Yeah, she was really upset. For 2004, it was actually Halloween night of 2003. We had heard some stories that we were going to go. We didn't know exactly when or whatnot. And my wife was having one of those, I don't know what they are, like pampered chefy kind of party things where they make food and stuff. She had a whole bunch of women at the house, and they're all hanging out and eating and stuff, and I'm hiding desperately. Between the den and the bedroom, I was just staying away. And the phone rang, and I don't remember who it was. Wow, for the life of me, I don't know who it was. But I remember what they said. They said to get the alert roster going because we're leaving. I said, all right, give me a time frame. We said, we don't have a time frame. Get the alert roster going. We're leaving. In 72 hours, you'll have more notice. Got it. So I started immediately. I run out where the ladies are. I go to the desk, and I pull out a roster. I start calling guys. It was maybe 9 o'clock at night when I got the call. They were starting to wrap up. And she walked into the bedroom when I was talking to one of my good friends who I was hoping was going with me, because I wanted him with me if I was going. And she immediately got the gist of what was happening. And she just kind of turned around and left. So I got off the phone, I walked out, and she was in a bit of disbelief. I wouldn't say she wasn't crying. She held on to herself pretty good, but she wasn't happy. She toughed it out. She did pretty good. I didn't tell the kids that night, obviously. At the time, oh God, how old? So Molly, my youngest, she was only what? Not even 6 months old. She was only 4 months old at the time. She was 6 months old when I left. 4.5 months old. Is that right? Yeah, 4.5 months. My son was 3.5, and my oldest was like 7. So, I mean, what are you going to do? Tell the 3.5-year-old, hey, see ya. So we didn't really bring it up yet with them. We didn't really talk about it much. It wasn't until we crawled into bed that night. I wasn't going to be sleeping because I had a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to get ready. There's a lot of preparatory stuff you have to do before you leave. You have to have your will in order and all those kind of things. You have to get set. All sorts of medical junk, all sorts of personnel processing, your life insurance crap's got to get all set up, you know. So I was thinking about all that stuff, and then she went to talk about when and what and where and what does it mean and what's going to happen. And I didn't have answers for any of her questions. I think that she was more upset by that I couldn't answer anything. That to me it was enough that I got a call that said, pack up, you're leaving. And that I was like, I don't think she liked that I was good with it. You know what I mean? So I got alerted again in 2009? 10. And then again in 11. Both of those missions got canked. At this point in time, my wife's kind of like, I'll believe you're leaving when you get on a plane. Because there's actually been 3 other instances. One actually where I was instructed to build the team I wanted to go for a mission. It was going to be cool. It's going to be good. It's a good mission. And I got good guys. I called everywhere in the Army. Anyone I knew that I'd work with that was good. I mean, we used to joke. We called ourselves the A-team, kind of joking around. And 5 days before departure, we got canked. We got off-ramped. Again, a presidential speech. Night before, president gives a speech. And the next day, it's, hey, you guys are off-ramped. What? Well, didn't you see the speech last night? Yeah. Well, when he said about downsizing and this and this and this, that means that we're no longer supporting this mission to that part of the world. Got it. So it's like been a roller coaster for her. So she just, whatever, she's along for the ride. She doesn't even care anymore. There, I think I hit it all.
That was tough.
It just is what it is, you know?
I know.
What are you gonna do
It's
about it?
really tough.
I have a question for both of you.
Yeah.
So this one's gonna hopefully lighten the mood a little bit. What did you guys and your friends like to do for fun? You know, for Mr. Crawford during war, and for Mr. Shaw, you know, back in Sierra Leone.
What do I use? You want me to go?
Go ahead, yeah, please. I gotta think.
Oh my God! In Sierra Leone, well, what I used to do for fun, I used to play soccer. I like playing soccer. I wasn't that good, but I was a good defender. Kind of rough a little bit. All right. So I play soccer for fun, and we also meet. We have, just like here, sometimes we have little parties. It's a different kind of party stuff, you know. What else do we do? We hang out, just hang out, you know. But my group was really studious, I would say. We were like, they call us bookworms, you know. They used to say we are bookworms and stuff. You know, I had a group of guys that just like reading and stuff. Well, the thing is, if you think about it, the environment we were growing up, although like, you know, some of our parents are not too bad, like my mom's dad, my granddad was not too bad financially, I'm not as nice. But you're still trapped in poverty. So we actually saw education as one way to escape out. So we used to have fun, whatever, everybody would go hunting and stuff, you know, kill birds and stuff, eat them, you know. What else? Play soccer, fun activities, you know, go to traditional dances and stuff. That's what we used to do. I hope I remember a lot of stuff. No. Some of it escaped, but that's what we do, you know. All right.
So you're like specifically looking for like when we were in theater, what did we do there? Like in country? In 91, it was like a running engagement, so there wasn't downtime. When we landed in Saudi Arabia, we went right off to a place called the Dewdrop Inn, which was like a reception area. You link up with all your equipment, you get organized, then you headed out. We just headed out in the middle of the desert. There was a place called the Neutral Zone. It was this big triangular chunk of land, literally in the middle of nothing. We were up by it. You would train, sleep, occasionally get to shower, only because we stole hot water heaters from other units. So I guess we did that for fun. We were like pirates. We would like go and steal stuff that we wanted. Until you got caught, and then it really was not good. After, like when the ceasefire happened, we were immediately on a clearance mission. So again, it was every day. It was going out and doing stuff. You were looking for those who didn't know that the war was over. You were trying to destroy everything of military value. You were sweeping areas to make sure that the Iraqi military was out of it. They had really made a mess of Kuwait. It was very, very bad. Killed a lot of civilians, just destroyed the infrastructure. They were like barbarians. Eventually, the realization was made that there's a whole lot of guys here with a whole lot of pent-up adrenaline, so we better do something. So we ended up going back to the battalion assembly area, the Alpha Alpha. That's kind of where everybody sets up in a big defense, and it was a very large assembly area. And they had us, they call it like an Olympics or a rodeo. So you do like all kinds of stuff. You know, a 3-man and a 5-man tug of war. So it's like a platoon sponsors a team. The engineers built a mechanical bull out of a 55-gallon bent metal drum and a bunch of ropes and cords and pulleys. Wow. As the redneck for the platoon, I got nominated to ride the bull. Some of me has never been the same. You do, it was, like, did I mention it was steel? I mean, there's, ow.
Wow.
Sit-up races. So, like, who can get to, like, 1,000 sit-ups fastest? Not an individual, you do as a group. So you're going, crank it until you can't stop. Push-up races the same way. All sorts of events, just to burn you out, because the last thing you want is a bunch of dudes with explosives and weapons and nothing to do. Because when war isn't happening, it's boring. It's great shockingly long periods of boredom until it's suddenly not. And then you're back to boredom, but your adrenaline's still up. In '04, we had the benefit of, we had occupied what was formerly a Republican Guard bachelor officers' quarters. So we had a nice building. We actually had indoor showers. I mean, it was living large. I got to eat hot food, like virtually, like almost every day, other than mission days. There, some of the guys had video games. We had DVD players, and we found a TV from somewhere. Like, you'd be amazed at what dudes will do. Like, we'd tear apart pallets and build furniture, and suddenly you got like the Taj Mahal, built up. When you leave, you pass it on to the guys who are coming to replace you so that they have good stuff. It's not like we were outside playing soccer and things, though, because you get mortared. So that sort of sucks. I recall that one time. All being outside, we were trying to play a game of, we call it combat football. It's like football, rugby mixed. Oh, and we did play rugby with the Australians. Dude, how did I forget that? Don't play rugby with Australians. Oh my gosh, they'll destroy you. Yeah, we worked with one of their special operations groups. They were these engineers, and they're all about 5 foot wide. There's just these like fire plugs of flesh. Don't play rugby. Did I mention it? If you take nothing else away, don't play rugby with Australians. Don't do it. But we'd have to be careful, because then the sirens would go off that, hey, the radar picked up incoming, and you'd have to run away. And so we did a little bit of that, but not too much. Mostly it was, when you were off mission, a lot of the guys just wanted to get into things like air conditioning and just veg. The downside is that can be counterproductive at times. Some guys get very like depressive, if you will, because it's that high-low thing, like your adrenaline is up. After a while, they get themselves so low that when they're going out on a mission, they're not even keyed up anymore. And you've got to key them up, because there are bad people trying to do bad things to you. So it was weird. It was almost sometimes, for part of the year, it was almost like a 9-to-5 job. It's like, okay, so today my mission is to go out. We're going to go out and get this thing, go out and get this guy, go out and secure this area. We're doing whatever. And I'll be back later tonight. And you'd go do it. And you'd come back, and you'd have dinner and have your briefing about what's going on. And every night I had to have a briefing for all my guys to let them know the next 24 hours, next 12, 24, 36, and 72 hours of operations. After action review, anything. So it was almost like Groundhog Day every day. But you'd try to make the best of it. I mean, it sort of sucked. Like, some of the guys would sit around and play board games at night. They love playing Risk and stuff like that. Like, why would you play Risk? Well, that's something more fun. I usually didn't do that, because if I was around, they wouldn't talk. They'd feel confronted by my presence, like they don't want to say things in front of me. They need to be able to bitch about me, about my decision. They need to be able to complain about what I'm making them do. I'm making them do things that their mother would want to slap me over, So sometimes it was just better for me to go and be a recluse. I spent a lot of time on a treadmill if I wasn't on mission, or punching like the heavy bag, just staying physically active if I wasn't on mission. And then I'd watch DVDs, read, just try to distract my mind a little bit. That was it. Like I said, it's boring until it's not.